So in this video, we're talking about the best metal albums of November. It's week number 2. I got 5 albums. And as always, I divided the video into chapters. Feel free to jump ahead to the band you want to hear about. With that being said, let me go right to the first album. So the first band is called Soul Blind, and the album is called Feel It All Around. They are an unsigned band, and they are an alternative metal band. This is their first full-length album. I discovered them through the Chill Dude on the Couch Reviews channel, and this band has a throwback sound to the 90s. The band that reminded me of a lot was Silverchair, that one kind of like grunge band, and like the Deftones, Collective Soul, Helmet. It's just straight out of the 90s. Lots of feedback-driven guitars, atmospheric passages, and just a 90s sound. So, as always, I chose 2 songs to talk about. First one I want to talk about is called Stuck in a Loop. This is alternative metal. Again, it reminds you of Silverchair. It's kind of heavy, but you do get these like relaxing guitars that are distorted. There's a lot of feedback. The bass is distorted, and you do hear it up front. The drums sound very good. They change the tempo towards like the end of the song. And they kind of like slow the tempo down, and it makes like the song stand out because it's kind of like a gradual slowing of the tempo, and it just reminded me of like this 90s band. Now the second song I chose was called Tribe. This one reminded me of like a cross between like Deftones and Collective Soul. Now the tone is very like sludgy and atmospheric. The guitars are distorted, lots of feedback. The bass guitar is in the forefront, very distorted. The drums are a little slower in this one. The vocals are a little more like atmospheric, kind of like maybe Chino Moreno of the Deftones, and reminded me of that Collective Soul song. I think it was Shine, where they do have that guitar riff and the like yeah, something like that. But it was similar to that one. So very good album if you love the 90s, if you love that like specific sound. Check it out. My score 8.5 out of 10. The next band is Soul Grinder. The album Anthems from the Abyss. The label is Black Sunset, and this is a death metal band. This is their second album. This is old school death metal. You got galloping death metal riffs. The pace is not too fast, not too slow. Vocals similar to like Cannibal Corpse, but they do change them up at times. Brutal drum fills. The guitars have those tremolo picked fills. You got blast beats. Some can be catchy. They kind of like repeat the guitar riffs enough so that they're memorable, but not too much so that it's like redundant. So I chose 2 songs. The first one, Insidious Resurrection. The song is very brutal. It's fast, it's heavy, it just takes off like a racehorse. Thick and dense riffs and rapid fire drum beats. There's an extra dose of cold-blooded guitar riffs. The vocals sound very like sadistic and uncivilized. This is one of the faster and heavier songs. There's a breakdown with some like slower, thick and heavy guitar riffs, and there's like one part where they slow it down and it makes the song stand out. Then my second song is Spirits Asylum. It has a slower pace. The guitars have more of a gallop sound. The vocals are very heavy. The sound is very like dark and evil. The guitar solo is more like classic metal, and it incorporates some spooky keyboard sounds in the background, and it creates more like a haunting atmosphere. They change the pace as needed, and you get some slower, sustained power chords at times. Final score 8.5 out of 10. Next is Dream Unending, the album Song of Salvation. The label is 20 Buck Spin, and they are an atmospheric doom death metal band. This is their second album. So the album has 5 songs. The first and last songs are about like 15 minutes long. The 3 songs in the middle are short songs from like 3 to 5 minutes. The music is just very dense and atmospheric. You got multiple guitars playing slow and soft melodies in sync with each other at all times. There are parts of songs with heavily distorted guitars. They play slow doom metal in these riffs. Vocals are dark and heavy. They're guttural. The slow death metal growls. The vocals contrasted with some like light and airy guitar passages. And for this, I'll choose one of like the shorter songs. Then I'll choose a longer one. So the first song I chose was called Secret Grief. Track number 2, it's 5 minutes long. Starts with a soft guitar melody and some cleaner vocals. It has more of like an echo effect. It's contrasted with some like soft saxophone parts, and that creates like this wall of sound. The harsh vocals come into the song about halfway through. They're very like low with like dark and evil undertones. They bring a slow, dark, and bewitching guitar solo that comes in towards the end. So it's kind of a short song. Second song I chose was Ecstatic Rain. Now this one is the last song. It's 16 minutes long. You got the slow, clean guitar, harmonized with like the bass guitar. They bring in some distorted guitars and they play some like deep string bends, kind of something, from the grunge bands, early Soundgarden or Alice in Chains. But it's still death and doom. Song continues with this plodding pace. Got some slow and grinding vocals. Also some cleaner female vocals. Kind of sounds like angels coming down from the sky. Female vocals are very glowing and whispery. The song gets quiet at the 4.5 minute mark with this like soft angelic singing. Song progresses and there's some more like surprises here and there. Got some like those higher pitched guitar notes, and it gives the song more of like a space rock or a prog rock feel. You also get more quiet and ambient parts, and that takes you on like this whole like mental odyssey. It's so lots of like dense guitar and complex arrangements here. My final score is an 8 out of 10. Next is the band Drudkh. The album All Belong to the Night. Label Season of Mist Underground Activists. They are a black metal band. So this band I never listened to, and I know Hammerheart Metal Reviews talks about them a lot. A lot of other channels talk about them, so they do have a big following. The album has 4 songs. They're about like 10 minutes long each, more or less. They're from the Ukraine, so the lyrics are in Ukrainian language. And the song is the sound is very dense and complex. So I'm just going to talk about one song since this is like very like complex music. So I chose the song Till We Become the Haze, track number 4. It's 15 minutes long. It starts with like a typical black metal beat and guitar riffs. Lots of classic black metal tremolo picking. The vocals are heavy, dark, and evil. The tempos change throughout a bit. But in general, the sound is consistent. There are sections of the song that get more atmospheric with clean guitars in the background. You get a quiet breakdown about like 5 minutes in, just isolated guitar. It's a nice break from the heaviness. Has some melodies you can just kind of like relax your mind with. And this section of the song has like the steady bass beat and some dark like sustained power chords. After about 8 minutes, the song seems to be over, but then it goes into like the third section with distorted guitar playing, a mid-pace riff, drum beat begins to build up. Then the song starts to get more dense and picks up the pace. And the final like 3 minutes of the song starts to slow down, get some dark guitar chords, and then a motive drum beat. So the song ends with a slightly distorted guitar riff. So it's not too bad. Final score 7.5 out of 10. The last band I'm going to talk about is Bonecarver. The album is Carnage Funeral and the label is Unique Leader Records. This is symphonic deathcore album number 2, and it's a band similar to Lorna Shore. This one didn't really feel like overwhelming to listen to, just the album's shorter. Songs are shorter and just less breakdowns, a little easier to digest. I chose 2 songs. First song, The Reckoning. I like this one because the intro was similar to like thrash metal. Still very brutal, lots of changes in the tempos and riffs. Vocals had a variety, like the low depth vocals, the pick squeal vocals. All this behind this like symphonic wall of sound, playing these like dark and evil melodies. So look at some breakdowns here, but they're short. Song picks up right after, and then there's another part where like this like horror movie style score with like these pig squeals. Next, I chose Morgue Desecrator. This one has a very symphonic intro. Song picks up with some brutal and heavy riffs. Some of them are like isolated from the drum beat. The song has a very nice groove to it. Has lots of stop-start riffs and pig squeals. It's fast-paced, it's heavy. You get more of those haunting and eerie symphonic sounds towards the end. And it closes kind of like a movie score. So my final score for this is 7.5 out of 10. That's all, 5 albums. I will be back next week with lots of metal. I have lots of new reviews, but it's going to be like lots of metal albums, and I'll do another episode of this. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.